Anticipated 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025, evaluating the implications for regional security and military modernization. Introduction. The geopolitical landscape of Southeast Asia is undergoing significant changes, particularly in the realm of defense spending. A projected 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025 signals a profound shift towards military modernization in response to rising security concerns, particularly regarding China's assertive policies in the region. This report evaluates the implications of these anticipated increases in defense budgets, analyzing trends in military spending, modernization efforts, and the overall impact on regional security dynamics. Historical context of defense spending. Since the turn of the millennium, defense spending in Southeast Asia has surged dramatically. Countries such as Indonesia and Vietnam have significantly increased their military budgets, with Indonesia's spending rising by 7.3 times and Vietnam's by 6 times since 2000. This surge can be attributed to several factors. 1. The end of the Cold War. The dissolution of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War led to a reassessment of military priorities in Southeast Asia. Countries that had previously relied on external powers for security began to invest more in their own defense capabilities. 2. Economic growth. The economic growth experienced by many Southeast Asian nations allowed for increased defense expenditures. With stable economies, countries could allocate more resources to military modernization. 3. Regional security threats. The rise of China as a formidable military power and its assertive claims in the South China Sea have prompted Southeast Asian nations to enhance their military capabilities to ensure sovereignty and territorial integrity. Trends in defense spending. The anticipated increase in defense budgets is not an isolated event but rather part of a broader trend observed since 2000. According to data compiled by the Congressional Budget Office (CBO) and analyzed by regional experts, defense spending in Southeast Asia has been on an upward trajectory, reflecting the growing need for self-defense and the establishment of a credible deterrence posture against external threats. Military modernization. The focus of defense spending has shifted towards modernizing aging military equipment and enhancing capabilities in critical areas such as naval and air power. This modernization effort is particularly evident in countries like Vietnam, which has prioritized the acquisition of advanced maritime capabilities. Geopolitical context. The strategic competition between the U.S. and China has created a security environment that necessitates increased military readiness among Southeast Asian nations. The South China Sea disputes serve as a focal point for these security concerns, compelling countries to bolster their military capabilities. Implications for regional security. The projected increase in defense budgets poses various implications for regional security. 1. Shifting balance of power. As Southeast Asian nations augment their military capabilities, the balance of power in the region may shift. This could lead to increased tensions between these nations and China, particularly concerning territorial disputes in the South China Sea. 2. Arms race concerns. While some analysts argue that the military buildup in Southeast Asia could lead to an arms race with China, it is essential to note that the motivations behind these increases are multifaceted. Many Southeast Asian countries are not necessarily seeking to match China's military might but rather to ensure a minimum credible deterrent against potential aggression. 3. Increased cooperation with external powers. The rising defense budgets may also lead to enhanced military cooperation with external powers, particularly the United States. Southeast Asian countries are likely to seek greater security partnerships to counterbalance China's influence, potentially resulting in increased joint military exercises and arms sales. 4. Domestic political implications. The prioritization of defense spending could have domestic repercussions, including debates over resource allocation and the potential diversion of funds from social programs to military expenditures. This could lead to public discontent if not managed carefully. Future trends and considerations. As we approach 2025, Several trends warrant attention in the context of Southeast Asian defense spending.
Continued economic growth. The ability of Southeast Asian nations to sustain increased defense budgets will depend on continued economic growth. Economic stability will be crucial for financing military modernization efforts.
Technological advancements. The integration of advanced technologies into military capabilities will be a focal point for many Southeast Asian countries. Investments in cyber capabilities, unmanned systems, and advanced weaponry will be essential for maintaining a competitive edge. Diplomatic engagement. The evolving security landscape will necessitate continued diplomatic engagement among Southeast Asian nations. Collaborative efforts to address common security concerns such as piracy and maritime security will be critical in fostering regional stability.
Conclusion. The anticipated 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025 reflects not only the region's response to external threats, particularly from China, but also a broader trend toward military modernization. As countries invest in their defense capabilities, the implications for regional security dynamics will be profound. Balancing military needs with domestic priorities will be a critical challenge for Southeast Asian nations in the coming years. Ultimately, the evolving military landscape in Southeast Asia highlights the complexities of regional security dynamics amidst the ongoing influence of great power competition. The anticipated 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025, while widely attributed to rising tensions with China, presents several counterintuitive insights about regional military dynamics. Here are some key points that challenge conventional assumptions.
1. Normalization of military capabilities. The narrative often frames the increase in defense spending as a direct response to Chinese aggression.
However,
many analysts argue that this spending surge represents a normalization of military capabilities rather than an outright arms race or reactionary posture.
Southeast Asian nations historically underinvested in their militaries due to Cold War dynamics and domestic political considerations.
As these countries seek to establish credible defense forces, the current military buildup is more about rectifying years of neglect than a frantic response to an imminent threat from China. 2. Historical context of underinvestment. Many Southeast Asian nations have relied heavily on external powers, particularly the United States,
for security.
This reliance created a sense of complacency regarding military investment.
The anticipated increase in defense budgets can thus be seen as a delayed acknowledgement of the need for self-reliance in defense capabilities.
This perspective shifts the focus from an immediate reaction to Chinese threats to a long-term strategy for military modernization that has been years in the making.
3. Not an arms race. While the popular narrative suggests an arms race between Southeast Asia and China, the reality is more nuanced.
The military buildup in Southeast Asia does not meet the criteria for an arms race as defined by the existence of an antagonistic adversary and a significant qualitative and quantitative expansion of military capabilities.
Instead,
many Southeast Asian states view military enhancement as a necessary step to assert their territorial claims in the South China Sea without mirroring China's military expansion.
This suggests a more pragmatic approach to defense rather than one driven by competition.
For economic motivations over security, the increase in defense budgets can also be linked to broader economic developments in the region.
As Southeast Asian economies have grown,
there is a greater capability to allocate resources toward military spending.
This perspective indicates that the military expansion is as much about enhancing national pride and economic stability as it is about countering external threats.
The emphasis on building a robust defense industry may stem from a desire to stimulate domestic economies and create jobs rather than solely from a strategic necessity. 5. Shift in military focus. The historical focus of Southeast Asian militaries on internal security and political stability is changing.
With democratization and economic growth, these nations are increasingly prioritizing external threats, particularly maritime security.
This shift indicates that military modernization may not be solely a reaction to China but part of a broader strategy to adapt to changing geopolitical realities and ensure territorial integrity. The heavy investment in naval capabilities underscores this transition, as countries seek to secure their maritime interests in an evolving security landscape. 6. Regional cooperation versus isolationism. Contrary to the expectation that increased military spending could lead to isolationist tendencies, Southeast Asian nations are likely to pursue greater regional cooperation and partnerships, particularly with the US and other allies, to balance against China. This reflects a strategic approach where military enhancements are complemented by diplomatic efforts to foster security alliances, highlighting a multifaceted response to regional tensions rather than a unilateral military escalation. 7. Diversification of arms suppliers. The arms procurement strategies of Southeast Asian countries reveal an inclination towards diversifying sources of military technology rather than relying solely on Western powers or China. This trend indicates a desire for self-determined military capabilities and an effort to avoid over-reliance on any single nation, which could lead to vulnerabilities. The increased arms imports from various nations demonstrate a strategic choice to enhance military capabilities in a balanced manner, mitigating risks associated with dependency. In summary, the expected increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025 encapsulates a complex interplay of historical, economic, and strategic factors that go beyond a simplistic narrative of reacting to Chinese military assertiveness. The situation reflects a broader normalization and modernization of military capabilities in the region, driven by a mix of economic growth, historical underinvestment, and evolving geopolitical realities. The implications for regional security underscore a nuanced understanding of military dynamics in Southeast Asia, characterized by cooperation and strategic adaptation rather than a mere arms race. The anticipated 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025 is a critical development that merits close examination. While many may focus on the larger geopolitical implications, there are several nuanced aspects of the report that are often overlooked but are significantly impactful. 1. Historical context of military modernization. One crucial detail often overshadowed in discussions of Southeast Asia's military buildup is the historical context of military modernization within the region. The region's military forces have been largely underfunded and under-equipped since the end of the Cold War. Countries like Indonesia and Vietnam, previously reliant on external powers for security, are now compelled to develop their military capabilities. This shift is not merely a response to immediate threats but reflects a broader normalization of military capabilities after decades of underinvestment. Significance. Understanding this historical background is essential for comprehending the motivations behind current defense spending increases. This perspective illustrates that the military modernization drive is not solely about countering China but also about rectifying decades of neglect in military readiness and capability. The modernization efforts are aimed at ensuring that Southeast Asian nations possess a credible defense posture, which is vital for their sovereignty and regional stability. 2. The role of domestic political dynamics. Another often overlooked aspect is the internal political dynamics within Southeast Asian countries that have historically influenced military spending. The military in many Southeast Asian nations, including Indonesia and Thailand, has played significant political roles, sometimes even acting as a stabilizing force in domestic governance. Significance. This internal dynamic complicates the narrative around military spending. Instead of being purely driven by external threats, military budgets can reflect internal power structures, political legitimacy, and the military's role in governance. Analyzing how domestic political considerations affect defense budgets can provide deeper insights into why these nations prioritize military capabilities over other societal needs. 3. Arms import trends and dependency on foreign suppliers. The report highlights significant increases in arms imports from countries like Russia, the United States, and France.
However, the dependency on foreign arms suppliers is a critical aspect often glossed over. While Southeast Asian nations are increasing their defense budgets, the arms they procure are primarily imported, which raises concerns about long-term sustainability and self-sufficiency in defense capabilities.
Significance: this dependency on foreign military technology and arms can create vulnerabilities for Southeast Asian nations. It raises questions about how these countries can maintain their military capabilities in the face of geopolitical shifts such as changes in foreign policy from key suppliers or restrictions on arms sales. Furthermore, this reliance could limit their operational autonomy and deter them from taking actions that might provoke supplier nations. 4. Geopolitical balancing acts. The anticipated military spending increase is often framed within the context of US-China rivalry. However, the report suggests that Southeast Asian nations are engaging in a complex balancing act, seeking to deter Chinese aggression while also not provoking Beijing unnecessarily. The narrative of an arms race oversimplifies this dynamic. Significance: recognizing the nuanced geopolitical balancing acts that Southeast Asian nations are undertaking is crucial for understanding the region's security architecture. Southeast Asian countries are not merely reacting to Chinese military expansion, they are also trying to maintain favorable relations with both the US and China. This balancing act can lead to more sophisticated security strategies, including increased regional cooperation among ASEAN members, which can stabilize the region. 5. The shift in military focus from internal to external threats. Historically, many Southeast Asian militaries focused on internal security concerns such as political stability and counterinsurgency. However, the shift toward external threats, particularly maritime security challenges posed by China, marks a significant change in military doctrine. Significance: this shift indicates a broader recognition among Southeast Asian states of the need to address external security challenges. It reflects an evolution in military strategy and operational focus, which could lead to increased interstate cooperation on security matters, joint exercises, and sharing of intelligence, ultimately enhancing regional security. 6. Economic implications of increased defense spending. Increased defense budgets can have significant economic implications. While there is a focus on military modernization, the opportunity cost of such spending is often overlooked. Resources allocated to defense could alternatively be invested in health, education, or infrastructure. Significance: understanding the economic trade-offs involved in increased defense spending is critical for assessing the broader impact on national development. Countries may find themselves in a situation where military spending diverts funds from critical social services, potentially leading to public discontent or unrest. The balance between defense and development spending will be a crucial issue for policymakers. 7. The impact of regional cooperation and ASEAN dynamics. While the report tends to emphasize individual nations' defense spending, it downplays the potential for regional cooperation and the role of ASEAN in shaping collective security strategies. ASEAN's mechanisms for engagement and conflict resolution are critical in mitigating tensions and preventing an arms race. Significance: the ability of ASEAN to foster dialogue and cooperation among its member states can play a pivotal role in maintaining regional stability. A focus on multilateral frameworks can help prevent misunderstandings and miscalculations that might arise from individual military buildups. This cooperation can also lead to a more coordinated approach to collective security, thereby enhancing the region's resilience against external threats. Conclusion. In summary, while the anticipated increase in defense budgets in Southeast Asia is significant and reflects changing security dynamics, it is essential to consider these often overlooked aspects. The historical context of military modernization, domestic political influences, dependency on foreign arms, geopolitical balancing, the shift in military focus, economic implications, and the potential for regional cooperation all contribute to a more nuanced understanding of the implications for regional security.
Recognizing these complexities is crucial for policymakers, analysts, and stakeholders engaged in Southeast Asian security matters. Here are the four most valuable points for in-depth analysis and discussion regarding the anticipated 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025. 1. Military modernization and capability development. The substantial increase in defense spending signifies a critical shift towards military modernization among Southeast Asian nations. Countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, and Malaysia are significantly upgrading their military capabilities, which were historically underfunded due to the Cold War dynamics and a focus on internal stability rather than external threats. This modernization is particularly crucial as Southeast Asia seeks to establish a credible defense posture amidst rising tensions, particularly concerning China's assertive actions in the South China Sea. The focus is not just on acquiring new hardware but also on enhancing operational capabilities, including naval and air forces, which are essential for asserting sovereignty and responding to security challenges. 2. Geopolitical context of defense spending. The increase in defense budgets is closely tied to the geopolitical landscape, particularly the implications of China's rise as a regional power. The South China Sea remains a flashpoint for territorial disputes, and the enhanced military capabilities of Southeast Asian countries reflect a strategic necessity for self-defense and deterrence. This context also includes the ongoing US-China rivalry, where Southeast Asian nations find themselves navigating complex relationships with both powers. The military buildup is as much about national defense as it is about signal strength to both regional and global players, indicating a desire for greater autonomy in security matters. 3. Historical context and structural challenges. The historical reliance on external powers, particularly the US, has significantly shaped current defense strategies in Southeast Asia. The end of the Cold War and subsequent economic growth have prompted nations to reassess their military needs, leading to a normalization of military capabilities. However, the legacies of past military structures, including political interventions and domestic priorities, have often stalled modernization efforts. Understanding this historical context is vital for analyzing the motivations behind current spending trends and the challenges that countries face in translating financial commitments into effective military capabilities. 4. Impact on regional security dynamics. The anticipated increase in defense budgets will likely reshape the regional security dynamics in Southeast Asia, leading to a complex interplay of military capabilities among ASEAN nations and between regional powers. While the intent may not be to initiate an arms race, the collective military buildup could provoke reactions from China, potentially escalating tensions in the region. Furthermore, the increased military spending may foster greater military cooperation among Southeast Asian countries and between them and external partners like the US and South Korea, complicating the security architecture of the region. The implications for peace and stability will depend on how these nations manage their military modernization in the context of diplomacy and regional cooperation. These points underscore the multifaceted implications of increased defense spending in Southeast Asia and the need for a nuanced understanding of the regional security environment. 1. The pre-World War II military buildup in Europe. 1930s. In the lead-up to World War II, many European nations, particularly Germany, France, and Britain, significantly increased their military expenditures and modernization efforts. The German rearmament under Adolf Hitler, which included the expansion of the Luftwaffe and the construction of new battleships, was a direct response to perceived threats and the punitive measures of the Treaty of Versailles. This buildup not only reflected a need for national security but also a shift in the balance of power, as countries sought to counter the growing influence of rivals. The implications of this military expansion were far-reaching, contributing to the outbreak of the war in 1939 and altering the geopolitical landscape of Europe. 2. The Cold War arms race. 1947 to 1991. The United States and the Soviet Union engaged in an intense arms race during the Cold War, characterized by significant increases in military budgets, the development of nuclear arsenals, and advanced military technologies.
This period saw both superpowers seeking to establish military superiority, leading to the stockpiling of thousands of nuclear weapons and the pursuit of cutting-edge military technologies. The consequences of this arms race were profound, resulting in political tensions, proxy wars, and the eventual arms control agreements such as the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks (SALT). The arms race not only shaped military strategies but also had lasting impacts on international relations and security policies worldwide. 3. The post-9/11 military buildup in the United States 2001 to 2010. In response to the September 11 attacks, the U.S. significantly increased its defense budget and military capabilities, focusing on counterterrorism and global military presence. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq led to massive expenditures on military operations, equipment modernization, and intelligence capabilities. This military buildup also prompted discussions on national security and defense strategies, shifting the focus from conventional warfare to counterinsurgency and anti-terrorism operations. The implications of this buildup were felt globally, influencing military engagements and defense policies of allied nations in the context of the War on Terror. The anticipated 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025 signifies a crucial pivot in regional security dynamics, largely prompted by the rise of China as a formidable military power. This shift is not merely an immediate reaction to external threats but also a reflection of long-standing historical underinvestment in defense capabilities. The implications of this military modernization trend for Southeast Asia can be categorized into several key areas. 1. Military modernization and capability development. Countries in Southeast Asia are increasingly focused on modernizing their military forces, particularly naval and air capabilities. Nations like Indonesia and Vietnam have significantly ramped up their military expenditures since the early 2000s, with Indonesia's budget increasing by 7.3 times and Vietnam's by 6 times. This modernization includes upgrading aging equipment, acquiring new technologies, and enhancing operational readiness in response to regional tensions, especially in the South China Sea. 2. Geopolitical implications. The rise of China as a major military power is a central factor driving defense spending in Southeast Asia. The South China Sea disputes have heightened security concerns as China continues to assert its claims over contested territories. As a result, Southeast Asian nations are working to establish a credible deterrent against potential aggression, which may lead to a more complex security environment. This trend could prompt increased military collaboration among ASEAN members and with external partners like the United States, as they seek to counterbalance China's influence. 3. Economic considerations and defense spending. The increase in defense budgets is occurring against a backdrop of robust economic growth in the region. Countries that once prioritized economic development over defense are now recognizing the need for a balanced approach that includes adequate military capabilities. This shift is expected to continue, driven by the necessity to protect national interests and territorial sovereignty. 4. Impact on regional security architecture. The rising defense budgets and military capabilities are likely to reshape the regional security architecture in Southeast Asia. The enhancement of military capabilities among ASEAN countries may lead to greater military interaction and cooperation within the bloc. However, it could also provoke an arms race, as countries seek to keep pace with one another and with China. The potential for miscalculations or conflicts arising from heightened military readiness is a significant concern for regional stability. 5. International arms dynamics and partnerships. Southeast Asia's growing military might will likely influence global arms dynamics, with countries like the US, Russia, and European nations competing for defense contracts in the region. The shift towards military modernization presents opportunities for defense cooperation, particularly with nations that can provide advanced technologies and systems. South Korea, for example, has been actively engaging with Southeast Asian countries by exporting military equipment and strengthening defense ties. 6. domestic political factors and military influence.
The historical context of military influence in Southeast Asia cannot be overlooked.
Many countries in the region have militaries that have historically played significant roles in domestic politics. As these nations focus on military modernization, the evolving role of the military could affect political stability and governance, potentially leading to increased militarization of domestic affairs.
7. Long-term strategic outlook.
Looking ahead, the landscape of Southeast Asian defense and security will likely continue to evolve in response to both regional and global dynamics. The anticipated increase in defense budgets by 2025 may not only enhance military capabilities but also foster a climate of increased collaboration among regional states.
However, it will be essential for these nations to balance their military enhancements with diplomatic efforts to ensure regional peace and stability. Conclusion.
The expected 25% increase in defense budgets across Southeast Asia by 2025 marks a significant transition in military policy, deeply influenced by the regional security challenges posed by China's rise.
The implications of this trend are multifaceted, affecting military modernization, geopolitical dynamics, economic priorities, and domestic political structures. As Southeast Asian countries navigate this complex landscape, the pursuit of adequate defense capabilities will be crucial for maintaining sovereignty and ensuring regional stability.
The coming years will be critical in shaping the defense strategies and international collaborations of Southeast Asian nations as they adapt to an increasingly competitive geopolitical environment.